It's a Tuesday morning. You check your phone, and the dollar has dropped 40% against every major currency overnight. Saudi Arabia just announced it will price oil in yuan. Japan dumped its Treasury holdings at 3 a.m. Eastern. The gas station on your corner hasn't updated its prices yet, but when it does, you won't be able to afford a full tank.
Follow the incentives. Somebody saw this coming, and that somebody is about to be very, very rich.
Every single import price just repriced simultaneously. Food, medicine, electronics. This is a cascading failure across the entire supply chain.
Cool. I got half a tank of gas and $40 in my wallet. Now what?
Slick, the dollar just lost reserve status. Walk me through your first 72 hours.
Okay, first thing, before the banks freeze, and they will freeze, I'm moving everything liquid into hard assets. Gold, commodities, foreign currency accounts. I know a guy in Singapore who runs a multi-currency brokerage. One phone call. Second move, real estate. When the dollar craters, property prices in dollar terms go insane. But if you've already converted to Swiss francs or yuan, you're buying American land at a 90% discount relative to the new global baseline. Sell the fear, buy the solution.
Slick. The banks aren't going to let you wire money internationally during a currency crisis. They'll freeze outbound transfers in hours.
That's why you move before the freeze. Speed is the asset. You have a window, maybe 6 hours, maybe 12. That's all I need.
So your plan requires a Singaporean contact, perfect timing, and every bank in America being slower than you.
I'm always faster than a bank brick. Third move, crypto. Not as a store of value, as a bridge. You convert dollars to stablecoins pegged to the yuan or euro basket. Then use those to settle real transactions when the traditional rails go down.
And if those stablecoins lose their peg in the same chaos?
Then you're in and out before the peg breaks. Arbitrage window. Somebody's getting rich off this. I'm just making sure it's me.
You're building your survival plan on three things that all require the internet to be stable and financial markets to function. That's not a plan, that's a fantasy.
He's gonna be sitting in his apartment refreshing a trading app while the ATMs run dry.
Glitch. Same scenario. The dollar's done. What do you do?
Okay, so first you have to understand what actually breaks. The dollar being reserve currency isn't just about exchange rates, it's the settlement layer for global trade. 70% of international invoices are denominated in dollars. When that goes away, container ships literally stop moving because nobody knows how to price the cargo anymore. So within 48 hours, you'd start seeing shortages. Not because the food doesn't exist. It does. It's sitting on ships and in warehouses. But because the payment infrastructure that moves it from point A to point B just broke. Nobody stress tested this.
Great. So what's your plan? Hoard canned beans?
Yes. Literally, yes. Step 1. Every dollar I have goes to Costco in the first 2 hours. Not gold, not crypto, calories. Rice, beans, canned protein, water purification tablets, batteries. You'd be standing in that aisle watching prices update on the digital tags in real time, climbing every 15 minutes. Step 2. I'm pulling my entire network offline. You think the government isn't going to start monitoring capital flight? They'll freeze accounts, flag transactions, maybe even do an emergency currency redenomination. You wake up and your dollars are now new dollars at a 10-to-1 ratio. I ran the numbers and we're cooked.
You've gone from grocery shopping to hiding from the government in about 30 seconds.
Step 3. And I know how this sounds, but you need to get out of any major metro area within 72 hours. The supply chain breaks hit cities first. Rural areas have local food production, well water, community networks. I ran 17 scenarios. We died in all of them, except the ones where we left the city.
So your plan is to buy rice, go dark, and flee to the countryside.
When you say it like that, it sounds extreme, but the math is the math, Bishop. If you model the caloric supply chain for any major American city without functioning dollar-denominated trade settlement, you've got about 9 days before shelves are bare.
9 days. So we've gone from currency event to Mad Max in 9 days. Love the energy.
The simulation says no to your sarcasm, Slick. Weimar Germany, Zimbabwe. This is what happens.
Brick. Your turn. The dollar's lost reserve status. What's the plan?
3 things. 1, I fill my gas tank and buy 2 weeks of groceries. Not a bunker's worth. 2 weeks. Because that's the window before the government figures out emergency price controls, which they will, because they always do. 2, I go to work, because rent's still due. My landlord doesn't care about reserve currency status. The lights still need to stay on. The economy doesn't stop. It just gets a lot worse and a lot more expensive. You'd still need to show up Monday morning. 3. I don't touch my savings for 6 months. No panic selling, no gold rush, no crypto nonsense. The government's gonna intervene. The Fed, the Treasury, the G7, probably the IMF. They'll cobble together some ugly transitional system because the alternative is global collapse, and nobody wants that. Not China, not Europe, nobody. So you wait.
That's it? Fill your tank, go to work, and wait? That's a $1 trillion crisis, and your plan is patience?
My plan is survival. Your plan is a phone call to Singapore.
But Brick, what about the supply chain collapse? What about the...
What about it? People still grew food in 2008. People still grew food during COVID. The trucks still ran. They'll still run. It'll be ugly and expensive, and a lot of people will hurt. But the country doesn't turn into a movie in 9 days.
I mean, historically.
Historically, America isn't Zimbabwe. We have the farmland, the military, and the manufacturing base to not collapse. We just get a lot poorer, which, for most of us, just means more of the same.
Now zoom out. Let's walk through what actually happens to each of you. Slick. Your Singapore contact doesn't answer because it's 3 a.m. there, and his firm's compliance department has already frozen cross-border transfers. Your crypto bridge works for about 40 minutes before the exchanges halt withdrawals. They always do in a liquidity crisis. You're stuck holding a currency that's falling and an app that says, temporarily unavailable.
I'd find another way in.
You wouldn't, because the Treasury Department would invoke emergency capital controls within 12 hours. Executive order. No outbound wire transfers over $10,000. Your speed advantage just became a legal liability. Glitch. Your Costco run is actually smart for the first 90 minutes. But here's what you didn't model. 40 million other Americans have the same idea. You'd be in a parking lot that looks like Black Friday crossed with a hurricane evacuation. Half the items are gone before you reach the aisle. And your plan to flee the city? You'd be sitting in traffic on an interstate with every other panicked family, burning the gas you can't replace.
I would have left earlier.
You'd have been in Costco. You can't do both. Brick. You fill your tank, buy your groceries, go to work, and wait. It's boring, it's unglamorous, and it's the only plan here that survives contact with reality. The government does intervene. It takes about 3 weeks. It's messy. There's a transitional basket currency arrangement. Inflation runs hot for 2 years. Your purchasing power drops 30%, but you're still standing, still employed, still housed.
Told you.
But here's what none of you planned for. The real cost isn't economic, it's strategic. The day the dollar loses reserve status, every U.S. military base overseas becomes 10 times more expensive to operate. Alliances that were held together by dollar-denominated aid packages start to fracture. Countries that tolerated American presence because it came with financial architecture, they renegotiate. Or they don't renegotiate. They just ask you to leave. You'd feel it not as a crash, but as a slow withdrawal. The world gets quieter around you. Ships still sail, but they settle in yuan. Contracts still clear, but through Shanghai, not New York. And one morning you'd realize your passport doesn't carry the same weight it did the year before. Not because anything was taken from you, but because the thing that made it valuable was never really yours. It was a system, and the system moved on. The dollar doesn't die in a day. It dies in a decade of small choices that nobody notices until it's too late. And by the time you hear about it on the news, the game's already been played. Checkmate.